All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I know we're supposed to start at 2:30, but we're running a little late behind today because of y'all can thank your judges for that. Thank y'all for being here today. This is gonna be a hearing only as a request of many folks. And we're gonna go ahead and get started. Representative Carper, are you ready? I'm ready. All right, I'm looking forward for a spirited debate today.
All right, folks, I'm here to present House Bill 998, what I call the Ticket Freedom Act of 2022. And this bill will do the following. What this bill will require is if a ticket company, let's go ahead and name a ticket company as, let's say, Ticketmaster, for instance, if they sell you a ticket that's non-transferable, because that's the current trend going on in the ticket business, is as a consumer, I buy a ticket, all right, and then they tell me I have no right to transfer that ticket. So if I wanted to give the ticket to Jenny, I couldn't give the ticket to Jenny. If I wanted to sell the ticket to Representative Smith, I couldn't sell that ticket. And what this bill says is if you do that, you also have to offer a ticket that is transferable for the same seat. And so I want you to imagine a world like airlines, for instance. All right, you have an airline that sells two classes of tickets for the same seat. You sell one that you have to use that day or you lose it, or you sell one that you can transfer. And this is what this bill right here would do in the ticket business, because there's a current trend currently that and I will go through the long story, but what you have is a vertical integration in the ticket business. Live Nation has come in and they are trying to control top to bottom events. So they've taken over the artist, they've taken over the promotion, they've taken over the venues, and now they want to take over the secondary market. And that's what this is all about. This is a giant redistribution of wealth from the people that sell tickets, that buy and resell tickets, ticket brokers, to the hands of the ticket masters of the world. And so they're trying to control your ability to sell your ticket on other platforms or to people at all. And so all this bill does is it will require two things. It will require that they sell a ticket that is transferable. And it can be, I'm not saying it can't be a higher price, but they do offer the ability for you to transfer it. And they can't limit the places that you can transfer it. And I will tell you what's going on with Ticketmaster is they're developed what's called a rotating barcode. All right. And so every 15 minutes, that barcode changes. So if I send her some tickets to go to an event, when she gets to the counter, if it's not transferred to her through Ticketmaster, it won't work because the barcode's changed. And so what this bill is saying is you can't limit my ability to send tickets to her through StubHub, through Vivid Seats, through SeatGeek, all the other platforms that are out there where we have good competition and you've got different tickets. You know, some buyers like to buy from this one, some buyers like to buy that one. Consumers have choices, whoever deals with them better. This bill would say that has to still remain, that you can't limit people's ability to sell them in other locations as well. And so at the end of the day, it's a pretty simple bill in that regards. Obviously, there's people for it and against it. But at the end of the day, it boils down to, do I have the right to that ticket? And if I do, should I not be able to sell it to whoever I want to? And if I can't, one, you have to tell me on the front side. And two, you have to offer me the option to buy a ticket that I can transfer. Because things happen. I mean, we just went through COVID and we're still going through it. If Miss Representative Bennett gets sick Friday night before a Saturday night concert, if that ticket's not transferable, she's just got to eat the $500 she paid for a ticket. She can't send it to her friend. She can't sell it on StubHub. She can't do anything. And so what I'm trying is to allow consumers to have flexibility and also, keep more competition in the field. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay. I got one question. I got a question for you. So you was talking about knowing that up front. So when you go buy a ticket that's non-transferable, do you not already know that when you purchase it, just like you do a hotel room? You can purchase the hotel room, says you buy it now, it's this price, but if you wait a few days, it's this price. Do you not know that up front when you buy that ticket that's non-transferable?
So I'll give you two scenarios that have happened in real world for me in the last year and a half. I bought Rolling Stone tickets at Mercedes-Benz. I buy them through the stadium because I have PSL. So I buy them through Atlanta Falcons. I buy those tickets. Nobody communicated when they sold me those tickets they were not transferable. I went to transfer them like 3 weeks before. They wouldn't transfer. So sorry, you can only transfer those 2 weeks before the event. So that happened. Second scenario, a lot of folks have Georgia tickets. When Georgia played Georgia Tech, there was not a communication that you couldn't after Wednesday before the game on Saturday was the last day to transfer tickets. So if you found out Thursday your mother died and you can't go to the game, you ate the tickets. You can't, because you can't print tickets off anymore. Everything's on your phone. So the real world instance with it that maybe they communicated, but they didn't do a very good job. And so what this bill would do is say, one, you have to be clear about it. And two, you need to offer me two options. You need to offer me a transferable option, a non-transferable option. And I'm not saying that's not where tickets will go. I think there's an opportunity for that. But I do think that we need to give consumers that opportunity. But it's no different than me having Atlanta Braves season tickets, right? Who in the world can go to 80 games? So what if the Braves decide, because we're winning and we just won the World Series, that we don't want to allow people to sell their season tickets off? Well, it wasn't an issue when they were losing, right? It's now only become an issue because there's a lot of value in that ticket. So instead of just, if you want more money for your tickets, charge more on the front side. Right. And then there's the other issue a lot of people you're going to hear today that says, I want to sell my fan clubs cheaper tickets. I don't have a problem with that. Sell your fan club tickets for $20. And if they want to, give them the option to buy a transferable ticket for $200. So you can still sell your fans $20 tickets if you want to. But that's not the truth of what's going on and the industry is headed. The truth is 20% of the profit in entertainment's in that secondary market. And these guys are trying to figure out a way to capture that last 20%. And that's the truth.
So you said, so you're saying that, like, if I want to offer a fan club ticket for $20 and I buy that ticket because I remember that fan club, that's non-transferable, right? I can't go sell it to you for $200, right? Because you're saying that they should offer that option, correct?
That's right. So if they want to, they give them two-tiered pricing. It's not that complicated. I'll give you a $20 non-transferable option because I love you and you love us. But if you're just buying them because you want to resell them, it's a $200 ticket. Okay. I mean, that option's still on the table.
Okay. All right. I got a couple of questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Carpenter, I appreciate this bill because you're right. As you were presenting, it brought a couple of things to life. One, sounds like Live Nation is setting up a monopoly, and this bill will diffuse that opportunity for Live Nation to set up a monopoly. So I appreciate that. My question to you, we have Georgia's been great, this past season in terms of, Major League Baseball and college football. How do we address scalping? How do we address that?
I mean, obviously I'm on the side of free markets. And right, if somebody's willing to pay you $500 for a ticket, well, then that's the market. Now, I understand it's frustrating if you're on the back side of that, but let me give you a scenario. For instance, I bought tickets. I have 8 PSLs on the 50-yard line for the Atlanta Falcons. Mm-hmm. Those PSLs, all not to count what all the state and the city did to help build Mercedes-Benz. I'm a big fan of the stadium, but they're $45,000 a piece. All right, per seat, just for the right to buy any ticket that goes on sale in that stadium on the 50-yard line. So that's national championship games, that's SEC championship games, that's concerts, that's anything. So when I went into my agreement with those guys, it was obviously I need to sell tickets to help pay Arthur Blank back his PSL money. So now what's happening on the backside is they're going in, they're trying to shut down that market on the backside. And it's like you make an agreement with the stadium for the right to buy every ticket on that thing for 30 years. Like I figured it like a mortgage, knowing that I would have access to tickets for World Cup and everything that happens at that stadium. But now you want to go around on the backside and start, because the industry's changing, and you want to limit the ability for someone to sell on that. You want to start realizing, well, there's money to be made there. We need to figure out a way to capture that money.
Mr. Chairman, if I may follow up before I go to my next committee. So I appreciate the bill and I like it, but as you were responding, you prompted another point. So should we, for transferable tickets, should we put language in here to say transferable tickets should be sold at market value or just let it,
No, I mean, I think that's what's happening now, right? These transferable tickets are being sold at market value.
Right, but I don't see market value language in here. though.
Are you talking about the primary sale or the secondary sale? So on StubHub, they should be at market value?
Right, it should be a market value.
I think that's
whatever that
occurring just,
platform is.
right. I think that's occurring naturally anyway.
Okay.
All right, who's number 2? Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, and thank you, Representative. Sometimes you speak a little fast, so I
Oh, you
try to catch up with you, got to keep up with you. When you suggested that you offer 2 different types, non-transferable and transferable for the same seat, so that would mean that you would have 2 different priced options for that seat, and once that seat is sold, it's sold.
That's right. That's just like an airline ticket.
So if someone paid the lesser, doesn't matter which cost, and wanted to resell it, the market value that was just raised, is there a way to limit that price or control that so that it does not become a scalping industry, or are we not concerned about scalping?
No, I mean, I think that's what this is all about. It's saying, look, you can offer me a ticket for $20 that's not transferable. Or if I know you're going to go out and sell it on the secondary market, I'll sell you a transferable ticket, but it's going to be considerably higher than the non-transferable ticket. And so what that eliminates is the conversation piece that people want certain people to get into the concert at a reduced rate because they want their fans there, because they want to feel the passion and the emotion of their fans. And so what I'm saying is, if you offer those 2 types of tickets, if you've got somebody that, like Metallica played at Mercedes-Benz, I don't listen to heavy metal. So if I bought that ticket, my sole intent would be to resell that ticket because I'm not going to go listen to Metallica, no offense. So there's 2 different people buying tickets. And so I have an intention to sell it because I know I got to pay Arthur Blank every February, my PSL payment, whereas other people just want to go enjoy the show. And so I'm taking a risk, right? I buy this ticket at 200. It may not sell for 180. It may sell for 300. It just depends, but I'm willing to take that gamble because I'm a gambler. And there's very few things to gamble on in the state of Georgia right now.
May I follow up, Mr.
Sure.
Chair? Trying to understand scalping. The scalping that I was once familiar with was when people walked up to you and tried to sell you a ticket. That doesn't happen anymore?
It does a little bit, but most of it's so electronic now. They've cut all that out.
And is scalping still illegal?
I think you can scalp as long as you're not in front of the stadium a certain amount. Anybody?
I think it's
that the
footage.
rule?
No, so far.
100 yards there. So we have worked on that. This bill has been worked on in that regard in the past.
So you have to be at least 100 yards away to resell a physical ticket that you may have.
That's
with
right.
you.
Which is pretty outdated because people are buying tickets right at the gate off of StubHub. So I think that's probably the 100 feet's probably a little ridiculous, but that's what they wanted to do back in the 80s or 90s when they started working on scalping laws.
All right, thank you.
I'll go back. You're talking about you're the PS, what is it?
PSL. It's called
So
a personal
whenever
seat
you-
license.
Whenever you got those, y'all had agreement that you could buy those tickets and that you could do whatever, right?
Yep.
In that agreement. Do you have to re-sign that every year?
No.
But
It's done.
somewhere in that contract, does it say that they can change that? at any
I'm
time?
sure it's a big, long document. So I feel pretty certain they left that window open where you could not, certain tickets, depending on the event promoter, et cetera, band, that you couldn't transfer those tickets. But what this is doing is it's closing off the entire access to eventually to other secondary markets, because at the end of the day, StubHub is a more, you sell tickets higher on StubHub in the state of Georgia than you do anywhere. I think it's because University of Georgia has always been StubHub. And so people utilize StubHub more than Ticketmaster and other places. So if you push them all to one platform, 2 things happen. You don't have opportunity to search out different pricing models, but also the fees can be changed so that you only have one operator.
And is that what you're calling secondary market at StubHub?
That's right. Second, StubHub, Vivid Seats, and all that stuff. So this bill would keep those options viable, because if we funnel everything to that one Ticketmaster, then what, they can charge you whatever fees they want to charge you. You see what I'm saying? If there's no other competition,
So does StubHub, do they get a percentage?
everybody does. They get some from the buyer and from the seller.
So why wouldn't you just like sell them on open market, Facebook?
Well, you
Craigslist?
try that too, but I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
it opens you up to a whole nother marketplace, right? So
Okay.
instead of the 10 friends, that like Metallica, you got 100,000 people that like Metallica. So
I was really surprised you didn't like Metallica by your wig. All right. Got any more questions? Representative Carpenter? Representative Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In all of your examples, I really didn't hear that you were not able to resell your tickets outright. I mean, there could have been a deadline, but you were still able to, resell your tickets. Do you have any examples of not being able to resell your tickets in the secondary market?
So I think that's what you're about to see. And that's the conversation. That's why we're trying to get out in front of this, because that's where the world's going to. It's going to go to either a non-transferable ticket or a ticket that can only be transferred on Ticketmaster. You see what I'm saying? And so that's how they'll allow you to transfer it, but they're going to start limiting the place where you can transfer it. So there's that vertical integration that starts here with the artist, and then the promoter, and then the venue, and then the ticketing. Live Nation has all that control. This is the last piece of the puzzle to have complete vertical integration in the entertainment business. And I'm not saying they're going to own every venue and own every artist, but they're going to own the big ones. So there are, you understand? They're going to take over all the big stuff, and then it'll be the Wild West everywhere else.
All right. Thanks, sir. We've got several people. Let's see here. Got Mr. Carl from Net Choice. Are you online with us?
Yes, sir.
All right, it's your turn.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Carl Zabo. I'm Vice President and General Counsel of NetChoice. I'm also an adjunct professor at the George Mason Antonin Scalia Law School. I come here in support of this legislation. I am very much a proponent of free markets and free enterprise, but I do recognize that when there is an issue of distortions in the marketplace, there is a role for government. And here there is such a distortion. 85% of all primary ticket sales are done by Ticketmaster. When I testified on similar legislation in Connecticut, we were told by the representative or lobbyist for Ticketmaster that they plan to begin charging individuals to transfer their tickets. So what we're trying to do, as the sponsor has mentioned, is get out ahead of this impending problem for consumers. And to that, this legislation does it quite well. I'm not alone in expressing these values. We actually conducted a poll of Georgians just recently, and overwhelmingly, Georgians view their tickets as their property. In fact, 76% say that it is their personal property once they buy it, and only 15% said the original ticket issuer, artist, or venue can control the ticket. Likewise, Georgians overwhelmingly support legislation to guarantee their rights to sell, give away, or transfer tickets however they want, 81%. So this is not just something that we see as addressing a distortion in the marketplace, whereas, as described, Ticketmaster and Live Nation now have a control of the vertical monopoly, whether it's from the artists via Live Nation, whether it's the venues, which they own, or whether it's the primary ticket seller, which is Ticketmaster, controlling 84% of all ticket sales. But now they want to expand and exploit that monopoly into a horizontal monopoly. I think consumers are best treated when they have options, choice, and that ultimately creates competition in the marketplace, lowers costs, and increases innovation. And with that, we overwhelmingly ask you to vote in favor of this legislation.
Okay, I got one question for you, if you don't mind. Well, I got a couple actually. You said overwhelmingly y'all had polled the state of Georgia. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I don't remember getting a poll on that, but that's beside. So what do you take like a plane ticket? That's been brought up a lot. The plane ticket is non-transferable. I can't give it to Michael Smith over here next to me. He can't give me his. So how does that play into the same role here?
Excellent question. So once upon a time, you could freely hand off your ticket to somebody else. Airlines hated it. Because what did that do? That created competition in the marketplace. I can't make the flight, so I will just find somebody who's interested in going to Atlanta, for example, and say, hey, it's a $150 ticket. I'll sell it for $100. I'm going to eat $50, but I still make $100 more than I would have. This practice continued until September 11th. When September 11th happened, the TSA came in and actually issued rules and regulations that prohibited transferability of your tickets in a way that your ticket has to match the name of the person sitting in that seat. It's a federal rule, which would not even be touched by this legislation. Ideally, we could return once again to a time where people could freely transfer their airline tickets. The other wrinkle, however, is if I wanted to get to Atlanta, I was actually there this morning, there are multiple different ways for me to get to Atlanta. Plane, train, automobile, boat, and multiple different ways to do it. There are multiple bus lines. There are multiple airlines that go through Atlanta. It's not just Delta. As opposed to when it comes to most venues and almost every single event, there's only one way to get to that show, and that's through Ticketmaster. So would I love the same rules to apply to airline tickets? 100%. But by the same token, what we're seeing here is the free transferability that Americans used to enjoy before September 11th with airline tickets being imposed on event tickets. One last thing that I would close with is that when it comes to these event tickets, it's something that we all expect to be able to do. It's going to increase transferability. And one of the things that I looked up just recently, if I wanted to go to the Atlanta Hawks game tonight, tickets are selling for about 11 or 12 bucks. And that's people sitting on tickets that they can't make it. Their kid got sick, somebody got COVID, and they got to get rid of the tickets. They'd rather take 11 bucks than $0. This bill guarantees their ability to make some money off a ticket that's just going to go dead at the end of tonight.
All right. My last question is, you said that in that poll that the people believe that when they bought a ticket that it was their ticket, correct? But the fact is it really their ticket under law, or is it just are you paying for permission to enter and watch something that you're paying for?
So technically it is a license. However, the thing is, Americans, Georgians, and constituents believe it to be their property. And that was what we were basically asking. Do you consider it to be your property? And 76% said, heck yeah. To just let you know, we will be more than happy to share that polling with you and your offices. We just got it in about 30 hours ago. So happy to share that with y'all as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we got Laura Dooley with StubHub.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Laura Dooley here from StubHub.
Good
Can y'all hear me?
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today to speak in favor of House Bill 995. Just by way of introduction, StubHub is a ticket marketplace. We connect buyers and sellers and help them transact in a ticket exchange. We revolutionized the ticket industry back in 2000 when we were founded. Prior to us, many of these exchanges happened on street corners or through classified ads. And we provided an internet platform that was safe, secure, and transparent for fans to buy and sell tickets amongst each other. 20 years later, ticket resale is now a well-accepted practice in our industry, so much so that every major sports teams, most venues, also have their own ticketing platforms where they enable their customers to buy and sell tickets as well. In today's world, I know we discussed earlier scalping versus resale. Scalping was a term that was used quite frequently when resale of tickets was illegal. Fast forward to today, 45 states, including Georgia, allow the resale of tickets at the market rate, whether that market rate is more or less than you paid for it. So it's a perfectly acceptable and legal practice to resell your ticket. So the debate today isn't really about is resale good or bad. It's about who should control it. And we very simply believe that it should be the consumer. And HB 998 really takes the side of the consumer and empowers them in this transaction process. We think that when consumers have choice, StubHub can compete on a fair playing field and in an open market. Absent that choice, unfortunately, what we're seeing is the use of technology to restrict consumers and lock them into a singular ecosystem, really eliminating any choice to take that ticket off platform or go somewhere else. So how do these ticket restrictions manifest themselves? I think there was a question earlier about, is there ever an example where resale is not allowed at all? And the short answer is yes, we've seen it. In the past 18 months alone, we've gotten a couple of emails from Live Nation telling us that they will be selling tickets that are not transferable. So do not list them for sale on your website. Examples included an Eric Church show, as well as a Pearl Jam tour that went through North America. Interestingly enough, though, that Pearl Jam tour still did play in states that had transferability laws on the books. They just allowed those tickets to be transferred and resold in the states that required that for their consumers. But what's more common in this industry is not a complete shutoff of transfer, but a limitation on transfer, meaning that it can only occur on the platforms that are owned or controlled by the original ticket issuer. These restrictions are designed to limit consumer choice, to monopolize consumer data, and really to foreclose competition. It also helps ingrain these long-existent monopolies in the live events industry, which you've heard before, to not only dominate primary sales, but secondary sales as well. So we see this bill as a common sense solution to that problem by inserting choice at the point of sale to a consumer and allowing them the choice to buy a transferable ticket that they can either use themselves or take to any platform they want. It doesn't require them to choose that choice. It doesn't require them to forego using the Ticketmaster ecosystem or any other similar ecosystem that's being used. It just says that they have the choice. And what I wanted to do is just take a moment. I know you all have heard probably many arguments from opponents about the bill, and just dispel a couple of myths that might be floating around out there. I know it's been said that HB 999 might make it easier for bad actors to buy up lots of tickets and to resell them on marketplaces like StubHub, when in fact, that's not true. This legislation does not impact the number of tickets that any customer can legally purchase. There are, in many instances, when an event occurs, ticket limits that are established. Any given consumer can only buy so many tickets. Those ticket limits will not be impacted by this legislation. And if anyone exceeds those ticket limits, ticket issuers are very much within their right to cancel that order and make sure that that limit hasn't been exceeded. Similarly, if bad actors are using software or automated bots to purchase tickets in bulk in excess of those ticket limits, again, that's an illegal practice that can be prosecuted by Georgia's Attorney General today, as well as federally with the FTC. Another argument we know that's been being made is that HB 999 might limit a venue's ability to enhance their security, because ticket restrictions really help secure a venue. We believe that argument falls short when you understand, or when we understand, that event security doesn't happen in advance of an event. It really happens at the gate. It happens at the door. It's in real time. And it's not something that can be enhanced by or detracted from if a ticket is transferable. This bill will not impact the ability of a venue to establish safety rules, precautions, age restrictions, anything of the like. That's still in the hands of the venue. So with that, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of this bill today. We believe that by empowering consumers in the ticket buying industry, we're really doing the right thing and helping to promote a competitive and fair live events industry. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple of questions for you. You brought up the Eric Church concert. That they were, well, how many of, what percentage, or was it 100% or whatever that was non-transferable in that?
We were told the full show, as I recall.
And where was that at?
I can't recall. I believe it was either Ohio or Kentucky. I can get back to you and let you know. But I can't recall off the top of my head where the show actually occurred.
And then in Georgia, you were talking about y'all trying to get in the forefront of this. What percentage of tickets are non-transferable?
Well, that's a great question. And I think it's important to define transferability. What is non-transferable? Because I think that term is used in different ways. In some ways, I've heard folks cite that only 1 or 2 or upwards of 5% of tickets are issued as non-transferable. I think when you hear that from event organizers or ticket issuers, they mean the ticket is non-transferable, period, full stop. The person who buys it has to use it. But in the context of this bill, we're talking about non-transferability as transferability that it has to occur on the platform of which you bought it. So the ticket, yes, is transferable, but it's not transferable outside of that ecosystem. We believe that that instance is happening significantly more. It's been publicly stated that by last year, Ticketmaster wanted to issue all of its tickets as restricted in their transferability only to their platform. We know today that 6 venues in Georgia are exclusively using this type of restricted transferability right now. And so we believe it's quickly going to become the norm, which is why we think it's timely for HB 999 to advance.
Okay, and I know y'all been had some other states. What states has passed this so far?
Absolutely. So most recently in Utah in 2019. In 2017, it passed in Connecticut as well as Virginia. And prior to that, well before my time in the industry, the states of Colorado, Illinois, and New York all passed similar, if not more aggressive legislation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Got any
Appreciate it.
questions? All right, I won't have no questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along now. Brian Hess is Executive Director with Sports Fan Coalition.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Hess. I'm the Executive Director of Sports Fans Coalition. Founded in 2009, SFC is a national nonprofit advocacy organization devoted to representing fans wherever public policy impacts the games we love. We fight for pay equality for women athletes, name, image, and likeness rights for student athletes, sports bettors, consumer protections, and a competitive, transparent ticketing marketplace. I'd like to thank you and the committee for allowing me the opportunity to testify this afternoon in favor of House Bill 998. Transferability is the cornerstone of any pro-fan ticketing marketplace. In this vein, we support the bill, which grants this right to all of Georgia's sports fans. Those who oppose this legislation may have told you that restrictive tickets protect consumers by eliminating bad actors in the secondary marketplace. This is false. In actuality, this bill is about empowering fans. All of the Live Nation companies and the sports teams here facilitate the resale of their tickets. This is about control of the resale market, straying away from those who seek to use their dominant primary market position to double dip in a secondary market. This stifles competition and innovation. Once the competition has been eliminated, they will raise fees on fans. The ease of resale encourages fans to invest more into their home teams and potentially gives consumers and fans alike the opportunity to purchase season tickets. And in any event, in the event of an unforeseen circumstance, they will have the ability to recoup some of the cost in that respect. Sports fans don't just buy tickets, they sell tickets too. Season ticket holders want the freedom to sell their tickets if they can't go to the game due to illness or work obligations or any other reason. This is why we support HB 998 and we encourage the committee to report it favorably. Thank you.
Okay. I got a question. Are y'all not a nonprofit organization?
We are a nonprofit.
Y'all
We're
are
a
not?
501c4. Yes.
Okay. And who are y'all funded by then? Is it just fans or?
We're funded by a number of contributors. They include people, small cable operators, a rental car company was a funder of ours, as well as some interest in the ticketing industry.
And what would could you name the companies in the second industry?
Yes, StubHub and Ticket Network have contributed to us. They came to us after our advocacy on these efforts began.
Okay.
Because our missions align.
All right. Thank you very much. Got any questions? Nope. Okay. All right. Moving on. Let's see here. And Chris Vandenhoff with Fan Freedom.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good
Dr.
afternoon.
Derek.
How are you today? Likewise. Thanks for having us today. I'm Chris Vandenhoff, the president of the Fan Freedom Project, national organization that advocates, like my colleague Brian, on behalf of fans of sports and entertainment across the country. I align my comments today with my colleagues who have gone before me, but I do want to go through one thing I think that might be helpful. Some folks have touched on it. The Live Nation universe, or closed loop system, as I refer to it, is really the key here that we need to get to for consumers in Georgia. We've talked about the fact that Live Nation is a parent company for Ticketmaster, which is the world's largest primary seller of tickets. They're also the world's second largest secondary seller of tickets. Live Nation is one of the largest venue owners and operators in the United States, and they're also one of the largest artist management companies in the world. And so Live Nation owns the access, how you see it, and how the tickets are sold top to bottom very clearly. As it relates to this proposal in Georgia that we fully support, it provides consumers an option to take those tickets that they buy from Ticketmaster on the primary, which they don't have an option really to go anywhere else, and get them out of Ticketmaster's loop. What Ticketmaster likes to do, especially for their big shows, is to sell a ticket on the primary market, but not all of the tickets they may say is available. For example, you've seen pre-sales for if you have a city credit card, you have an American Express credit card, you're part of the fan club, whatever it might be. That's blocks of tickets that are not going to go on sale at the general public on sale. Then the general public on sale happens, and for big shows, they may sell out in 3, 4, 5 minutes. That's because not 100% of the tickets that are available for the, we'll call it the house or the theater or the arena, are available at the time that the public on sale happens. Ticketmaster doesn't share this. And then what we see is that we see a ceiling get established on Ticketmaster's own secondary site of tickets that are now being resold that were bought at the public on sale. And here's where things get interesting, is the dynamic pricing model. Ticketmaster calls it platinum pricing, where what happens now is on the primary site, new tickets suddenly become available that align themselves with the pricing that's been established on the secondary market. And without the ability to transfer this, you are now stuck owning a primary ticket where the price was established by the secondary market, and you can only sell it in their own secondary market. And so now you're paying fees when you buy the ticket the first time. You're paying fees if you resell it. It is an absolute closed loop and does not provide any consumer any choice to go anywhere else. And whether you want to go to StubHub or Ticket Network or Vivid Seats, it allows the consumer to have some competition where they may be able to get better pricing for those tickets. And I just wanted, we've talked a lot about folks know Live Nation, obviously, and Ticketmaster and the fact that they're a primary seller, but they simply control, especially for concerts, simply control the entire operation from top to bottom. Who goes and plays where, how much tickets are going to be, et cetera, et cetera. I want to make sure that was on the record, because I think that what this bill does is it allows consumers in Georgia to yes, they have to use Ticketmaster for their primary ticket, but now if they want to transfer it, resell it, or move it, they can do it somewhere else. So I urge committee support. And of course, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions.
You said that, so Live Nation actually owns the venue that they have the concerts in. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know the full list. They're an owner operator of venues across the country. So I do believe they own some venues. They operate a bunch of them.
Okay, so I'm trying to get my head around this thing because y'all are in this business and I'm not. But if I own a business and say I own a venue and I get an artist to come play, who pays for that artist to get there, set up the stage, all that stuff? Does the artist pay for that, or does the venue pay for that?
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question. I believe in some cases the venue. I don't know. I hope maybe somebody is there from Live Nation today. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person. I would encourage you to ask them the question on sort of the logistics of how that all works. Not only do I work in this business, I do find it fascinating too, because these are pretty impressive tours that are put on across the country and around the world.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is if I front the money and I own the venue and I'm putting on a concert, shouldn't it be up to me as a business guy to be able to, you can buy the tickets directly from me, or I don't care, because ultimately all I want is the thing packed out, right?
Sure.
And so are we not, like what you're saying, so are we trying to say, all right, you put up these millions of dollars to build a venue and you put up the hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the artist there, but we're going to tell you, you can't sell your tickets this way or that way? Is that not what you're trying to do?
I'm simply suggesting that they can sell them however they want. But they should be able to give the consumer, who's the reason that they're able to go to these venues, the option to potentially do something that isn't trapping them into one space, right? So if I buy a ticket on the primary market, which is Ticketmaster, for $100, and the next day it's on Ticketmaster's secondary site for $300, and then I go back and check to see what other tickets are still available at the original on sale, and they're now priced at the same price as the secondary market, it seems that we're driving demand by limiting supply and then using their own system to raise the ceiling. And if I can't get the ticket out of that system, then I think that's really bad for consumers. And I just don't, there should be more options for consumers than being stuck in this one system area where there's just no way out and you're trapped in it paying fees and all these other transaction fees that simply are not consumer friendly.
So if I buy a TV for $500 before Thanksgiving, and then after Thanksgiving, it's $200, I mean, shouldn't I, is it kind of that same scenario, or should I just wait it, or? I mean, is that kind of, I mean, that's what you're saying. If I buy it for 150 and it's 300 tomorrow, or if I buy it for 300 today and it's 150 tomorrow, I mean, that's just a risk you're taking, is it not?
Certainly. And I would encourage you, if you're buying a TV, to wait till the sale's going to happen. But I would also say that, as it relates to tickets, I think Mr. Szabo made this point earlier, that you can get into the Atlanta Hawks game today or tomorrow for like $10 or $11, right? And so like the secondary market primarily sells tickets below what folks would refer to as face value. Everybody's interested in the Super Bowl or the Taylor Swift concert or the Eric Church or whatever it might be. But the secondary market provides a place for the casual average fan to get into a game that they may not otherwise be able to get into. What we don't want to have happen is that fan spend their money to try to go see the Taylor Swifts or the Eric Churches or the Garth Brookses of the world and get stuck in this system where it's just fee after fee and they can't get out of it to find other options to enjoy those shows. I do appreciate your point, Mr. Chairman, about if I own the venue and I'm the artist and it's my business and I want to try to sell it for what I could sell it, and absolutely the right way to do it. And I'm sure that there's plenty of formulas that determine what price makes sense for what show. This is a very lucrative business. But, I as somebody who is on the other side as a consumer would rather be able to go with my friends and family and focus on the consumers having access to this than making sure the artists or the venues or Live Nation Entertainment is the one, collecting all the money at my behest.
Okay, I got one more question for you from Representative Earhart.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Just want to clarify, you mentioned, I think twice that consumers, one of the downsides here is consumers are trapped in the system having to pay. You mentioned the transaction fees. I think you mentioned that twice. My understanding though, is that there would be transaction fees associated with any platform that a consumer went to sell their tickets, correct? The other platforms aren't doing it for free.
No,
So
certainly not.
that's not unique to Live Nation. I just want to clarify.
That is correct. It's my understanding that the secondary platforms generally have a static fee. It might vary depending on the Super Bowl versus the Hawks game, for example. But my point on the Ticketmaster fee piece is that if I buy a ticket from Ticketmaster in the primary on sale for whatever the show or concert or show or sporting event might be, I pay a transaction fee, I pay a delivery fee, whatever that is. They're just sending me an email, pay a processing fee. Now, if I want to resell it on their secondary site, there's now new additional fees that I'm stuck also paying, even though that I just paid for it already on the primary site. So it's in this essence, it's a bit of a double dip. I'm not suggesting it's StubHub or Vivid or Ticket Network.
You pay those initial transaction fee the first time you, pardon me, Mr. Chairman, may I continue? You pay that, but it's no different. You would again pay a delivery fee and a transaction fee if you then went and resold that ticket on another site. So it's not additional fee. You're just opposed to the fact that Live Nation, because it is two separate transactions, you don't think it's okay that they charge two separate transaction fees? Trying to clarify what you're saying, because
I'm generally against all of the fees. I appreciate
me too.
transaction fees, right? But delivery fee when you're sending me an email for $3, that seems ridiculous. I can't speak to each company's fee structure. It's my understanding that the secondary market has a static fee that maybe 5, 10, 15%. I don't know what it is, but it's a percentage of the overall cost of the ticket, or the price of the ticket. Whereas Live Nations or Ticketmasters in this scenario has multiple fees on the primary side and multiple fees on the secondary side. So I do have a problem with the fees, period. It would be frustrating. It's frustrating as a consumer that I'm paying these set of fees on the front end, and then I'm stuck also paying their fees again to the same company on the secondary end when I have no ability to move this to any other
right.
platform.
Mr. Chairman, if that last question, but you'd be okay if they took their ticket to a secondary platform and paid those delivery fees and those transaction fees?
Yeah,
It's just you don't like that they're paying them both to Live Nation. And I'm sorry if I misunderstand, but I feel like that's what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that. I don't. My overall point is I don't like any of the fees, but the fact that you get stuck in their loop, and every time there's a transaction, you're paying a fee inside their loop. So maybe I can't even compete with. Maybe StubHub's fees are lower. It's not up to me. I can't take my ticket there to try to resell it. Maybe Vivid Seats is lower than StubHub. I can't go shop around for the best case scenario out there. I'm stuck with whatever Ticketmaster is making me do. So I can't shop it on the market to see if, hey, maybe StubHub is 5% lower. Maybe Vivid is no fees this week. So, it's more of a, I can't shop for the best possible deal for myself as the consumer that you should be able to do. It isn't necessarily that they're paying 2 fees to the Ticketmaster. That's their prerogative, but I can't shop it because Ticketmaster has a monopoly on it and I can't get out of their system.
Thank you.
One question that she brought up, I guess it come up in my mind. Y'all all kind of keep using the word consumer, but how many consumers are actually selling tickets? I mean, if I buy tickets, I'm pretty much going unless something, strange happens. I mean, if I guess when I'm getting, if only 4 or 5% of the total tickets in the state of Georgia is non-transferable, and you keep saying that consumers are getting hung in this, how many consumers are actually selling or trying to get rid of their tickets? Is it I don't ever hear a whole lot. And if you do, I kind of, I tell Michael about it or somebody in my family. I'm not
Sure.
going online and trying to get rid of them.
I appreciate that question, Mr. Chairman. I don't have the number in front of me, and I'm happy to get it for you specifically for Georgia. But I would point out that the 4 or 5% non-transferable number is speaking to just completely non-transferable. What I'm more concerned about, frankly, is the non-transferable outside of Ticketmaster's closed loop system. That's what I'm speaking to. And Ticketmaster utilizes that ability much more than 4 to 5% of the tickets available in Georgia. But I'm happy to get back to you and your staff with information about the total number of tickets that consumers in Georgia are reselling.
I got one more question for you. Well, maybe 2. Representative Bennett, do you have a question? Oh, okay.
Carpenter.
You got a question? I do have a question. Representative Smith.
I would like some clarity. If I'm not mistaken, StubHub and other secondary markets, the reason why they exist is because the free market and places like Ticket Market thought that they were necessary. And it seems as if maybe Ticketmaster doesn't need you anymore. And perhaps now you guys are asking us to guarantee your business model.
I don't have a business model, sir. I appreciate the point. The ticket industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I'm not sure that that the point is correct. What I would say is that Ticketmaster has a monopoly on the industry, and there are folks trying to fight against the monopoly of managing the artist, managing the venue, managing the ticket from top to bottom, and prohibiting or excluding consumers from being able to sell something they've already bought or to even give it away. There are situations where you can't even transfer the ticket for free. And it's my argument that is not consumer friendly.
Follow, Mr. Chairman. It seems as if there's an incentive for Ticketmaster to fill the seats. Because once people are in there, they're going to buy concessions, T-shirts, perhaps, and other things. So there's an incentive, perhaps, maybe for them to bring down the price of a ticket the closer they get to, I guess, the event. I guess no question.
I think you had more of a comment there. Thanks, sir. Appreciate you being with us today, and look me up if you're down this way.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Representative Carpenter, you had.
Yeah, just a quick piece there. I think what we're seeing here is we're trying to give consumers options. All right. And we're trying to obviously protect against monopolies, because today the fees may be the same as StubHub and everybody else. But when there's no other players in the game and that becomes the only place you can buy tickets to big events in the state of Georgia, they can charge you whatever the heck they want to charge you. So what this does is this allows other players to be in this space. If it wasn't a lucrative space, if people weren't reselling their tickets, then they wouldn't be trying to capture that market because they realize that there is money in that market that they haven't tapped, and they've tapped all the other pieces of that puzzle. And then the other argument on the TV piece is I completely agree with you. You buy a TV in November, it's $500, and now they're selling for $300 in December. Well, unfortunately, what's happening right now is we're telling you the only place you can go sell that TV if you want to get rid of it is go back to Walmart where you bought it. And we're trying to, this bill is trying to allow you, if you want to sell that to your neighbor, or if you want to sell it, go back and sell it on eBay, you can do that. But the way the industry is moving right now, you bought your TV at Walmart for $500. Now it's worth $300, and the only place you can get rid of it's at Walmart. Does that make sense?
No, because I can offer to anybody in here.
And
try to sell it.
That's not going to be the case.
Well, but that is, so how is it not the case?
If you can't transfer the ticket,
Well,
you
hang on,
can't
let me
sell it
talk.
to anyone.
Hang on. I'm getting there. Just hang on. But if I've got StubHub that I can sell it through, correct?
Right now,
Ticketmaster, you got all these different options that you can offer the ticket. Facebook, hell, I don't know, put it on a poster board at Tractor Supply. I mean, you got all these different options. So how do y'all keep saying, that's what I'm trying to get.
as of today, you can, but what we're trying to say is the storm's coming where they're trying to vertically integrate where Ticketmaster is going to be your only option. And that's what we're trying to get out in front of. We're trying to see the industry is funneling.
Okay.
And we're trying to prevent that funnel, give consumer protections, protect personal property rights, and give consumers options.
Okay. All right. Good question. Representative Smith, you can do it. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so just a response, I guess, to your statement about personal property rights. What about the rights of the venue? What about the rights of the people that are putting on the concert to control their venue? Is that not also important?
That's right. But as representatives, we represent the consumer and the people, right? And we're trying to say, look, we want our people to be able to have the right to do that. I promoted concerts. I have a wedding venue. I've had concerts at, so I've been through the entire ecosystem. And when I had a concert at my place, if somebody was sick, this was during COVID too. If somebody was sick, I didn't tell them, no, you can't give your ticket to your Uncle Joe. I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to let that ticket burn, right? So, and the argument that they want the venue full to sell tickets and beers, if that's the case, they would allow transferability, because we all know, just like airlines, people get sick and don't make shows, right? But if I limit your ability to transfer that ticket, then you're gonna have a smaller audience, because instead of selling it at the last minute online, you can't do anything with it. So I don't think that the argument that they don't want it to they want the place full, and they is satisfied with the non-transferability, if that makes sense.
For the sake of competition and for the sake of prices, would you like if I went into your business and told you how to run it?
I'm in the
restaurant business.
I'm in the most competitive business in the world, and people open restaurants every day. And they sell, Cracker Barrel sells my food. So how do I compete? I have to offer the best service and the best food. Right. And we're not giving consumers an option to choose who's doing it the best, who has the best customer service line. If we give one company, Ticketmaster, the opportunity to run it, customer service goes out the door, because it doesn't matter. You're just dealing with one guy. He has no competition.
Perfect. Mr. Chairman?
Just go ahead.
I totally understand. Here's also the other problem, is that the problem doesn't exist yet.
Oh, it does. It does, and it's coming in waves, I promise you. So Atlanta Falcons tickets are on rotating barcodes. If I try to upload my Atlanta Falcons tickets on StubHub, because I know StubHub's a better marketplace in Georgia, it's difficult. It kicks them out. So then you have to just list them on Ticketmaster. So they're making it more and more difficult to leave that ecosystem that he's talking about.
You good? All right, Representative Earhart.
Question, I promise. I'm just kind of curious. You having a good time? Who owns these tickets, really? If you
Well, I
think
mean-
about it, I mean, and the reason I ask that is because when I think of a ticket to a concert venue, I really think of that more almost like, I think of it less like a TV, which is a piece of personal property that I own
Right.
and perhaps keep in my home. And I see it almost a little bit more like a reservation in a restaurant. You're a restaurant owner, so you've got, let's say you got 100 seats in your restaurant, and let's say you were selling those reservations, not just giving them out for free. And I'm wondering, would you want some say over the control of that seat in your restaurant? You see what I'm saying? So who really, and maybe I am unclear as to, what is the legal status of a ticket? Is it a piece of personal property, or is it a license? Is it more of a license? Or like I said, it's a simple analogy, metaphor
Sure.
there, but the reservation.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand what you're saying. What I would say is, if you have a ticket to a concert for that seat right there, and you come into that show and somebody's sitting in that seat, you're going to think it's your property, and you're going to say, this person is in my seat. I have the ticket for that seat. You're not going to say, hey, I have the license for this seat. That's my seat. Get out of my seat. And I think that's in the consumer's mind, whether the back of the ticket says they do or don't. In Jordan's mind, they own the right to that ticket. They own the right to go to that show and sit in that seat for 4 hours, get a t-shirt, drink some beer, have a good time, and go home.
Representative, my buddy down there, Representative.
Washburn.
It's getting late. I was
No, I
getting there.
understand. Listen,
I was trying,
that's
I was
why-
going to say something else and I got
No,
cracked
no,
up.
no. That's why I just always say the number. 'Cause I can't remember. I'm a little bit confused at this point about this. I'm intrigued, number one, and I should know this already, but as you can tell, I'm not nearly as sophisticated when it comes to this kind of thing as you are. I have to let my daughter manage my Georgia tickets as far as me giving them away or giving them to constituents or whatever. So right now, though, you are not prohibited from transferring tickets. This is something you're doing this is a future.
Well, it's
For-
occurring, it's occurring in that 5%. The difficulty to transfer outside of Ticketmaster is getting more and more prevalent, and the industry eventually is headed completely that way. And the reason being is margins are tightening on their vertical integration, and they see that there's 20% in that secondary market, and they're trying to squeeze as much out of that as they can.
A follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The real estate guy in me is really intrigued by this thing about buying the seats in the stadium. So you bought seats in the stadium,
Personal
paid
seat
big
license.
money for them.
Absolutely, too much.
And that gives you the right to buy tickets to anything that occurs there where you could see it from those seats.
Now, they do move you for certain events, right? They'll move you for like national championship that you're not in your exact seats. They move you around. They do carve that stuff out. Or the Super Bowl, when it was here, they would move you around to a less fabulous seat,
Mhm.
if you will. But yeah, and that's the allure, right? The stadiums come to you on the front side when they're building these things, and they sell you this pipe dream of, hey, don't worry, you'll have the ability to buy any and sell any tickets you want for this event. And then now what they're doing is they're coming around in the backside and trying to squeeze that out of it. And I think as a consumer, that's a raw deal. And as a consumer, I want to be able to sell my tickets anywhere I want to. Facebook, anywhere. And that's increasingly getting difficult. And I think that monopolies are bad.
Well, I understand the need to want to resell and try to recover some of your investment on the seats.
Absolutely.
So, well,
Especially the way the Falcons have been playing lately. So that's a joke.
well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
So like I'm on your seats. Do you have to buy those tickets or you get an option to buy?
No, you get an option to buy.
So you don't
Yes,
have to buy those.
You don't
tickets.
have to buy them, but if
Then they can sell them, right?
right, that's right.
Okay. All right, let's move on here. It's getting a little late. Peter Colin, is that Colin? I can't read your right. You. with the Live Nation.
She'll put you
Yes,
there.
sir.
Or you can sit here. I'd love to sit beside you.
Whichever
Good
one
luck.
you feel.
Sit by you. I need y'all to take a picture of this. I can send this to all my friends, though. They'll be pretty pumped about sitting next to the legend.
Thank you all, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for this opportunity to speak. And I hope I can clarify some of the things you've heard today. I've been a promoter for 40 years in Georgia and around the country. I'm in part of Live Nation. Live Nation has been portrayed here, I think, as some monolith. I can tell you that there's more competition in the business today than there ever has been with artists and acts. Also, as far as transferring tickets now on Ticketmaster, they're all transferable at no charge. The ones that are being restricted, you have to understand, it's not Live Nation, it's the artist. The artist decides what the ticket price is, what venue they're playing, what cities they're playing, and how their tickets are going to be sold. We merely carry out the artist's wishes. Okay. If Beyonce tells me I want to hold the first 300 seats for my fans and they can't transfer them, that's what we do. What StubHub and these other scalpers would like is to get a hold of those tickets so they can mark them up 4 or 5 times. The best tickets are the ones artists are protecting. The 5% they're talking about. Most seats in a venue are not restricted, or you can transfer them. It's those best seats or the fan club seats that might be at a discount. And StubHub wants to increase their inventory and they want the better seats. So they're trying to use this legislation to get a hold of better seats so they can make more money. They charge fees, but the real money they make is when they take a $100 ticket and make it a $1,000 ticket. That's the money. It's not the transfer fee. But, you know, the artists tell us what to do. We don't do it. It's the artist's rights. It's their show. It's the artist's ticket, not our ticket. You know, when Coldplay is coming to town, they tell us, here's how much you're going to charge for these seats in every area. They go through it. Here's how they're going on sale. These don't go on sale. We're holding these. Or these are going to be for fan club. But every contract in the last 40 years I've gotten, pretty much the first 20 rows are always held for the public. They want to make sure they go to their fans. And the scalpers gotten very aggressive now. I mean, they're using bots because everything's electronic. I mean, when I first dealt with scalpers back in the 80s, I mean, it was a guy sitting on the hood of his car with a cigar box with 20 tickets in it, you know, and tickets were $10, but if you wanted one from him, it was 20, you know. Well, it doesn't work that way anymore now. It's all electronic, and how do we transfer? And, you know, they take the $200 ticket and make it a $900 ticket. And that's, you know, but the better tickets are valued by location. And so that's why they're trying to make sure they can get their people to get access to the better seats. And that's what's going on here. It's got nothing to do about rights of the consumer. The consumer is being protected by the act. That's what they're trying to do, is they want to make sure that price stays at a reasonable price for their people.
Okay, thank you. I got just one question. If this bill passed, how would it affect the industry overall?
Well,
In
the
state?
Pearl Jam was a really good example. Pearl Jam made that decision that they didn't want any of their tickets transferred because they're at a special price and because they don't want scalpers to get a hold of them. Certain artists would probably tell me, well, we're not playing Georgia because there's only X number of dates on a tour. Say an artist is going to go out and do 20 cities, you know, they can pick 20 cities. They don't necessarily have to come to Atlanta. If they hear there's a law that inhibits them from doing what they want to do, they'll go to a city or state where they're not inhibited. Again, I have to emphasize, this is the artist's interest, not ours. We're merely carrying on what they want. And you made some very good points about how people need to run their business. And this is the artist's business. They're concerned about their fans and how they look in the marketplace. They don't want their fans to be gouged by scalpers. So, you know, this law would actually hurt the consumers.
Okay, got one question for you.
And one thing I'd like to say too is, if you notice, I'm here today Live Nation has an office in Atlanta. I have 130 employees. Everybody else was on a Zoom from somewhere.
That's right.
They're not in Georgia. We generate a tremendous amount of sales tax for the state. Music Midtown alone is a $10-12 billion gross, not to mention all the other shows we do. We invest in buy and run venues here and invest in them, and we hire a lot of people. So we're contributing to the state. And I'm surprised to see some of these brokers apparently are now nonprofits. So that's an interesting curve since we pay taxes. But again, these aren't our policies. We're merely carrying on what the artist is asking us to do. And they differ by every artist. I mean, Beyonce will say this or Springsteen will say this, but they want to have control of their tickets. They don't want you telling them what to do with them.
Got one question for you, Representative Earhart. Oh, Washburn, I'm sorry.
And you have said this over and over, but I just want to ask you one more time. So there are artists who would not come to Georgia if they thought there was an opportunity for tickets to be scalped?
I believe so. There's some that take it that serious. You heard Eric Church and Pearl Jam. That was their decision. That wasn't Live Nation's. Obviously, with the church, there's some special situation probably there, maybe a very small venue. Like sometimes when an artist normally plays an arena, will go play a club for like, $50 a ticket, which you could probably sell for $1,000. So they would restrict that so you couldn't sell them, scalp them. But yeah, I think it could cost you some artists. I've seen it before with other legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just got one last question. So like when they have like awards ceremonies and that kind of thing, are those non-transferable tickets?
Yes, most awards. I went to the Grammys a couple times and those aren't transferable. MTV isn't, Black Entertainment Awards. Most award shows say on them non-transferable because they want to know who's using them.
And under this bill, it would make them transferable or have to replace them with a.
The way I read it, probably would.
All right. Well, thank you, sir, for showing up. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you all. I appreciate it.
Last person,
Y'all get my picture with him? That's a
Earl
legend right
Earhart.
there, man. Jeez. Just trying to catch the crumbs off that fine fella. Crumb catcher.
Just go right ahead.
No, my good friend Casey might smack me. Mr. Chairman, my name's Earl Earhart. I represent the world champion Atlanta Braves Baseball Club. And we want to come to, with all due respect to my friend Representative Carpenter, we have some significant issues with the way the bill is drafted today. And I know this is hearing only, but members of the committee, this is a problem or a solution that's chasing a non-existent problem. You even heard from the representatives from other places that this really isn't happening. I mean, I think Representative, you laid it out, how much of this is actually going on here. The transferability of tickets is an old law. This piece of legislation seeks to overturn 50 years of statutory authority on the ticket licensing law. This is the ticket license has always been a revocable license. And there's good reasons for that. And it's quite frankly, there's 15 states who have recently said no to this particular piece of legislation, to answer one of the other questions that was here previously. And let's talk I don't represent Ticketmaster, but Ticketmaster is a vendor to many teams. The teams hire them as the IT to send out the tickets. And there isn't a problem with transferability with Braves tickets. I transfer mine all the time. I've sold my season tickets. I've been a season ticket holder for the Falcons, the Braves, and other clubs since 1966 when my family had them. And I think pretty much we've always sold. You can't go, you sell them to friends and family. And yes, that's changed electronically, but there's no bar in Georgia. Again, a solution chasing a non-existent problem. And let's talk about the free market piece. What we're asking to do is let's get the state legislature involved in a private transaction between a ballpark and a team and what they're selling to enrich, again, folks from out of town And that's quite frankly, if you bought a ticket on one of those sites like StubHub, you know what you're paying. You can pay $700-800 for a really high demand ticket. And that's not what you're paying when you buy it from the Atlanta Braves Baseball Club, who happens to use Ticketmaster to do it, and you transfer it electronically. Well, let's talk a little bit about why teams have a commercial interest in their brand, their marks, the product that's on the field. And I mean, there are operators out there who will, if there weren't a revocable license on here, who could actually come in and operate in a rogue manner, so to speak, and take and buy up a lot of those tickets, because you can, and then they can use the Braves brand, the Braves mark, the Braves. They could do auctions for all kinds of things, and they're actually using their commercial interest without their permission, and that's one of the bases of those licenses. You can't come in here and advertise my product and make representations and not expect me to have a little bit of a problem with that. Let's talk about the security issue. There is an issue if you buy a bunch of these tickets from season ticket holders and the person that you bought it from charges the field because it doesn't like to call the umpire on the back of that ticket that's transferred from the ballpark, they can tell you, they'll cut that ticket off the electronic thing. But this bill will keep that from happening. You can't control your own venue. And that's what this is all about. This is why the Braves as a club have a problem with this, because they need to be, they're being told what they can do in their own venue. And just quite frankly, that's not acceptable. That's not right. That's not consumer friendly in the end. The tickets that you buy for face value from the Atlanta Braves, and they set their ticket price, that's not the value you're paying to StubHub. So, and again, most of those tickets are sold by the club. There are some, if you're sold by friends and family, and there's some that are bought by and they can still buy them. Again, there is not a current problem. There is no plan to keep people from transferring or selling tickets. There's no plot afoot. This is truly an issue for the teams like the Atlanta Braves. This has been long settled law, and we really, as a General Assembly, do not need to insert ourselves in that kind of transaction between the consumer and the seller. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, more than happy to take questions and ask you to not consider my good friend Representative Carpenter.
I don't think we have any questions. I think we're all about questions out today.
I kind of figured it's late.
Yes,
I like it.
about time to go somewhere
There's
else.
one I was worried about. Thank you.
Well, thank y'all all for showing up today. I've got a feeling this is not going to be the last hearing we're going to have on this bill. But we'll let you know when we do. Thank y'all. Have a good afternoon.